Hello, everyone. My name is Moonsel. For those of you online who don't know me, um, so I'm an Anagarika, and I've moved here last June of 2021. And today I would like to share with you all what's been going on in my practice pretty much since the whole time I've been here. And even for a few years since before moving to the Abbey. This was my biggest, challenge to Dharma practice. And that has been attachment, specifically sexual attachment, which I know is a big one for most people, maybe particularly young people. Before moving to the Abbey, I tried out being in different relationships with 4 people. And, after each one, I was very disillusioned and I thought, wow, this isn't working. Maybe if I do this again, this will not work again. So maybe I just shouldn't do this anymore. And I kind of started to feel that way when I was practicing the Dharma. And I also thought that, having a great partnership would be, the highest aim in life, because that's kind of what the media taught me growing up. And that I would be, happily ever after. That's so not true. And after 4 times of this totally not working out with anybody, I kind of started to begin to accept this instead of being in denial. It was slow to acceptance, and it's still very slow to fully accept that this isn't a viable source of happiness, that this isn't a real refuge. So I would like to share some passages by Lama Zopa that are really intense and really helpful on this subject, and just kind of put a bomb under my misconceptions on this topic. So in this book called Transforming Problems into Happiness, it's very small and user-friendly. He says that following desire is meant to bring satisfaction. But because following desire is a wrong means, the result is only dissatisfaction. So I can remember most of my life where I really tried to follow and respect my own desires because I thought they were the authority, like my desires, they know what's up, they know what's going on. I mean, yeah, my desires, they have it all figured out. And I thought that I was following my heart, this phrase kept coming up in my life that, people would tell me like, oh, you're following your heart, that's so great. Oh, you're being true to yourself. And it's like, well, what does that even really mean? And, the more I practiced Dharma, I realized that, actually I wasn't following my heart or whatever. I was following this very dissatisfied energy in my mind over and over again, and I was going from different experience to different career job to different partner, just like over and over again, because the dissatisfaction was really deep. But I thought I was following virtue. Yeah. And then Lama Zopa goes on in this book saying that with desire, having the object brings suffering. And with desire, not having the object brings suffering. This is also so true in my experience. When I was with a previous partner, I would get so annoyed with this person because we spent too much time together, which was maybe a day. And I was like, okay, I really want to be alone now. I'm so annoyed. And then I was alone for a while. And then maybe a day later, I would feel lonely and sad and want to be with this person again. And I would crave being in their company. And it just went on like that. Just the craving to be with them and to be separated from them. It was insane. And, I broke up with this person. We got back together. I broke up. We got back because I was so confused. I didn't know what the real causes of happiness were. And I also want to read this kind of larger paragraph. Hope nobody minds. So the previous problem of not having an object of desire is stopped by obtaining the object. We then impute pleasure to the change of feeling that arises when one of the 6 senses comes into contact with the object of desire. With the continuation of the contact between the sense and the object, however, sooner or later the pleasurable feeling becomes the suffering of suffering and is seen as an unbearable problem. So when I first read this paragraph in this book, my mind was just blown. Like I had never come across something this penetrating, this clear, never, ever, ever. He goes on to say, until you recognize and label the feeling as an unbearable problem, until you recognize it as the suffering of suffering, you impute pleasure to the experience. As you have called it pleasure, the feeling appears as pleasure, even as pleasure existing from its own side. In other words, although the feeling is only labeled pleasure, the pleasure appears to exist from its own side. Now it's only a question of time before continuation of the contact between the sense and the object compounds that feeling of pleasure, and you become aware that it is unbearable. Your mind continues to impute pleasure to that feeling until eventually you recognize that it is unbearable discomfort, the suffering of suffering. So when I make examples of this in my own life, specifically in the context of, a romantic relationship, like kissing somebody, macking on somebody for too long becomes really boring and exhausting. It's amazing how it quickly turns like that. And then, holding their hand for too long becomes sweaty and uncomfortable. Having sex for like hours and hours and hours is just, that's unbearable, it's physically exhausting. I don't know if anybody could do that. So the suffering, it just compounds. The pleasure compounds. And if there really was any truly existent happiness in these romantic actions and experiences, then, definitely the pain I felt would not be increased when it was increased. So real happiness would compound to more happiness. Okay, one other very interesting perspective I came across from Lama Zopa was this. I'd never come across this before. He says, no worldly pleasure covers the whole body. The pleasure we experience from an object of attachment is extremely limited to a very short duration and a small area. The most delicious food in the world is only delicious between the tongue and the throat. Lasts only for a short time and it takes to swallow, and there's no way the rest of the body can enjoy it. Our feet can't, our arms can't, and our stomach might even end up in pain if the food is too rich. We can use this example for any sensual kind of experiences that we might be attached to. So I've contemplated what was in this book, probably since I got here over time, and it's been so helpful. And, when some sexual fantasy pops into my head again and again, it's very hard to rip myself away from it because the momentum behind attachment is like, whoa, like it's very powerful. But there is something I have been working on that has been a pretty good antidote. And it's been visualizing, kind of creating a new happy place in my mind. I visualize this forest, and the Buddha's in it, and it's very clear and beautiful and warm. And, the Buddha's just radiating, radiant happiness. And I try and imagine myself in that space, what that space feels like in my mind versus the space of being, in a sexual fantasy. And it's really tight. The mind is really tight and the body's tight. There's just this agitation and this craving. And, and it's in the lower part of the body. And that's the only area of the body that can go to. But when I imagine the Buddha, this warm kind of loving feeling kind of permeates the whole body. So it's very different. And I've been training my mind to go back to that image. The other one is so familiar, but I want to keep coming back to this refuge and not that false one that led to many problems. Yeah, I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to try to undo this. It's been around since beginningless time, but it's doable. It's only a conception. It's amazing. It's only a fleeting, insubstantial conception, and yet it's so powerful, and the effects and the impact is very real. So I'm very grateful to be at the Abbey and to have this environment to do this in because, I never would have seen this out there. There's no space for that. So thank you so much.